So, I mean, a lot of people have ideas, and, most people are kind of too hesitant to start within 6 months, which,
Yeah.
I mean, that's definitely not wasting any time. But can you kind of walk us through the steps that you took in terms of, taking the idea and getting it to where it is now in terms of, did you first write out a business plan? Did you first start writing out your ideas? Can you kind of just walk us through of, hey, I have this idea, and how did it go from the idea to 6 months later,
Yeah.
You're here?
Yeah, so when I knew I wanted to open a wine bar. I didn't have a name for it at the time. I just had an idea of, what I could possibly serve to people, what would be the product that consumers are going to come in and buy. And I knew that was going to be wine. But then I also wanted to integrate craft beer as well, because Escondido is the home of Stone Brewery, which is like the father of craft beer. So
True.
I'll be the first to say that SIP is definitely more wine focused, but when we expand, there'll definitely be more of a beer presence.
Okay.
But what that planning looks like is how can I translate my dream and turn it into a reality? And I don't have to have the specifics. I just have to have the mission. This is for myself. I just need to have a mission and a game plan on who are the players and who are the decision makers in the city in order for me to get the green light to make this happen.
Okay. Can you expand on that in terms of, I guess, the people within the city that you need to be able to move it forward? Is it city council?
You have to get a liquor license,
Okay.
which is a process in itself. You have to let the city know what you plan on, what type of business you want to open and where you want to open it, because it has to fit. Some of these things have to fit within the city's plan.
Okay.
People need to know who you are, your background. And so I just called someone at the city, the economic development manager at the time, and set up a meeting and was like, hey, I have this idea.
Okay.
And I had a prelim, like a draft business plan. It was like, I want to open a wine bar. There's no wine bar here. How can we make it happen?
Okay, so you go down to the city, you speak with someone, you've already come up with a business plan.
Yes.
So then you guys sit down, and what is the conversation from there?
It's, well, where would you like to have this business?
Yeah.
And so in understanding how buildings are zoned,
Okay.
you have to know where, if the type of business that you have, where it could potentially fit within the city.
Okay.
And so that's why you need to know, okay, here are my options in terms of locations based on what my business would be zoned as.
Okay.
So they probably would call like a retail or bar or food establishment. And they'll say, okay, these areas are zoned for what you want to do.
Okay.
And then you're like, okay, cool. Well, they were like, we'd like to have you on Grand. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll give it a try. But if not, like, what are my other options? Like, where could I fit sip wine and beer in Escondido?
Okay.
And that's why the city is going to guide you, because if you wanted you can't have a wine bar by a school.
Yeah.
So if you're like, hey, I wanted to open my wine bar across the street from such and such.
Probably wouldn't fly.
Right. So that's why you got to get the city government involved, because there's so much yellow tape involved in opening a business depending on what it is.
Okay. So what did you do next after you guys spoke? You leave? Kind of what is the next step?
I start looking for locations that I could possibly rent or lease in order to have a brick and mortar. But then I also had to talk to the state of California Alcohol and Beverage and say, hey, I want a liquor license.
Yeah.
How much is it? What's the process? There's a whole background check. And it's the tricky part is that all of these things have to happen concurrently. Because if you don't have a building, you can't get a license. But then if I'm trying to shop around and look for a building and I'm like, hey, I want to open a wine bar, but it's not happening yet and I don't have a license yet, the landlord might be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I got extremely lucky, because the first building I looked at, the guy, people who are aspiring entrepreneurs, like, if you don't do your homework, you can definitely get taken for a ride and taken advantage of.
Sure.
And that's definitely, happened a couple times where, I wanted to rent someplace and they wanted to charge astronomical rent. But at the end of the day, it fell into place that I landed this location and told this private owner about my dream and what I wanted to do, and he believed in it. So
Nice.
yeah.